welcome to the Psychic Kitchen podcast. Today we have Moon Air, moonair.com. How are you doing today, Miss Moon Air?
Good. How are you doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. So I was watching a few of your videos and I saw about the Galactic Federation and the Schumann and some things that are happening. How do you feel about that? Can you expand upon it?
I started going live in 2014. I'm a galactic traveler. My consciousness switched out with the original host and in a car accident in 2009. I was shown that I needed to start pushing out the messages. I was kind of like to lay low until that. So I started doing what you guys would consider prophecy prediction videos. And they began with telling everybody about growing your own food. Food would be very scarce. Trump, that didn't go over well. When I started to predict him like 6 years beforehand, people thought it was, ooh. And then when he took election, that's when my following kind of skyrocketed. I warned everybody about the disease, their way of trolling with the towers. And I started doing radio shows for New York with all of that stuff. But I welcome it. I get meetings mainly in the shower. It's like an open portal for me. Just flows. Sometimes they'll start out in dream, or I could be like walking down the street and they'll just chime in. But I do what's called a KGFL every month. It's a monthly meeting with my planet, which is called Kalenia, and the GFL Council Planet gathers with them, and we collide and we do these videos to update people. And that's kind of what I got the other day. It was just like no meeting, just go do this video and get it done.
TikTok, Facebook, they serve a good purpose, but they can serve a bad purpose too. What I'm getting to ask you is, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, how do you feel the Draconians factor into all this?
You mean the elite?
Well, yes, but also the planet, They've gone through the galaxy.
They found their way here. They've been here way before the dinosaurs, and they've been controlling the energy here. They found a loophole when it came to energy and vibration, and this was their hiding place. This is where you get in the Bible that fallen angels made their way here.
That's code.
Okay.
And like it kind of goes back to when they thought people were possessed, when really there was more of a medical procedure going on here with seizures. Okay, so it's for them to wrap their mind around what they were seeing. Oh, they have to be some kind of angel because they shapeshift. So when they were coming across the natives here, or people that or races that found themselves here, like the Maldekians found themselves here because their planet was destroyed. And when they had to come up with something to make them feel comfortable, which is what they've done with humans, making them feel comfortable, but really they've been in a prison, paying taxes, having to buy things, when there should have been that bargaining and that free will of, okay, you do this, we do this, and we collide in exchange. We're getting back into that.
Sort of a bartering system.
Yeah, I heard that you know my soul. This is an interesting thing. Maybe you go into that.
I was one of your teachers in heaven.
Oh.
You're the frequency of 990. Coded frequency of 990 comes to my classroom when they've lost their way and need to get their frequency back up to that level, and they get sent to a planet to use that frequency. But here on Earth, it gets a little dicey. Your frequency can get altered, and then it gets sent back to me. We just reevaluate it and realign it back up.
Okay.
Your because I was also reading about your website and some of your TikToks and your planet Kalenia, and can you describe that, how you see it, what's it about? Because I'm always fascinated by different places and all of the different shall we say dimensions and everything that encompass the whole universe.
I don't want to give away too much because it's in my book. I'm going to try to use human terms because it's hard to describe things with the human language in accordance
Mhm.
with this. We have caverns, or what you would consider sacred places. Like there is, I'll just give you an example. There is a sacred elixir, what you would refer to as maybe a ocean or sea. We
Mhm.
have an elixir.
Mhm.
And the elixir, like if your people here on Earth get a mental disability,
Mhm.
we don't shove them into a building and basically say, okay, good luck with that.
Mhm.
We're
Yeah.
going to do our best for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elixir kind of aligns and corrects things that
Mhm.
maybe that being is having issues with, and they go through the elixir. But the elixir also alters the state of a level ship. So this would be a consideration of going to school and get a certificate or a
Mhm.
level of degree.
Mhm.
And you go into the elixir, and it's this whole sacred process that on your time would probably take about maybe 2 weeks. But in our time, it's a lot quicker. But it's an
Mhm.
alteration. You actually physically change to that
Mhm.
level. So when you're walking around, everyone resonates and understands who you are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It changes you on a. You're saying it changes you on a spiritual level and as well
And
as
a
a physical.
physical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and not that they don't just look at a physical
Right.
core.
It's like the equivalent of dyeing your hair, maybe.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Oh, cool. Sounds like a great little thing.
And we don't
Elixir.
eat like you do. So when I do come to Earth, I've been here many times. The food really gets me. I love the food. We don't get to eat like that on our planet.
I've
It's
heard that.
substance and
Mm.
rejuvenation and regaining energy.
Mm.
But other than that, we don't get hamburgers or pizza,
I've,
unfortunately.
I've heard other channelers say when they've channeled their different races, etc., that the food here is something special and it's worth coming for. Worth
It,
coming here just for
it's
that.
one of the good parts
Yeah.
of being here. Yes, exactly.
I talk to the Syrians a lot.
Hmm.
How do you think they factor into all this?
Well, my best friend was a Syrian, but she died. They're high vibrational, but not to like a high level of crystalline body ship. They hold key knowledge. I think every race kind of does. The races kind of remind me as a religion. You know how every religion has something different, but they all come together and they all make sense because they all come to one
Mm.
point. And like the Syrians might be the ones that hold the key to how to be more confident. Centaurians, they could be the ones that kind of bring that coding to you that shows protection and
Mm.
getting the job done. The Pleiadians is the kindness and the love, and what you push out is going to come back to you. Okay, so every race holds a key that kind of is part of the fabric of the whole, if
Mm.
that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like your soul contract is mapped out on your hands. That's why you go to palm readers. And
Mm.
these lines can change at any point in time based off your decisions. But you also have a galactic contract mapping in the sky. I mean,
Mm.
you're not just thrown here and given nothing to go by. You have it here and you have it there.
Mm.
This is the individual, that's the collective.
The position of the stars when you were born, does that affect? Does that sort of, in some ways,
It sets the tone for this.
yeah. So that imprints on it is kind of like the over a bigger picture from the hand sort of thing.
Yes. So your world right now is in the Aquarius energy. And then you've also got Capricorn and Pluto. And Pluto comes into Aquarius 248 rotations. And once this is over in September, or actually November, we won't see Pluto in Aquarius for another 248 years again. But Aquarius is of youth, not old. It's of young and new. And then you've got Capricorn, which is leadership and organization. So you're taking the leaders, the elite, and flipping back to
Mm.
the people. Top to down gets
Mm.
flipped from down to top.
And kind of that's what they mean by the poles flipping. Is that sort of yeah, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Once the poles flipping calls Graham Hancock goes into great detail about this 20, 30 years ago, but like cause a massive flooding? Because we've had ancient civilizations that were very advanced that have gone off the face of the planet.
But Tom,
And then
that shouldn't be your reality. Do you see?
Yeah, okay.
Shifting are energetic. So if you're experiencing earthly shattering stuff with that, you're making it physical in your reality. See?
So essentially what you're saying is they're programming us to make stuff happen.
Yeah. Physically. But if you're in a higher vibrational reality, you're going to see it as, oh, we're shifting poles energetically, not physically. But if you're shifting it in your reality, you're going to feel it with earthquakes and things like this. Like that's where you get people saying, "Oh, there was an earthquake," and then you have other people going, "Well, I didn't feel it because it wasn't in their reality." They've shifted their poles higher.
So this would be like people on different timelines that are experiencing different things, if I would understand this logically. Okay.
Yeah, that's why some people are suddenly forgetting or not remembering the Holocaust now. And some people still are. They're doing it now with 9/11.
So you can basically be present in the reality of something, but not actually experiencing it. It's almost like you're looking at it from behind a window or whatever, and everyone else is experiencing it, but it's not affecting you personally.
And that's where you go into the individual consciousness and understand who you are within this illusion. And Earth is a school. I'm going to put it in human terms the best I can. It's a school. And we come here to learn subjects. And in the subject is modules or lessons to be learned. So within the subject, maybe the subject is confidence. And then there's lessons and modules to learn that break down confidence. So it gives you situations of people to learn from. Instead of writing it out on paper, you're experiencing it as if you're in a movie. But Earth itself, the concept of that school, so like maybe Harvard's focuses on law, Earth focuses on manipulating energy. That's what Earth does. You came here to manipulate energy. That's why you suddenly see people moving things off their hands or moving things with energy off their table. You have the power. It's just tapping into it and bringing it into your reality to make it happen.
I've had the odd experience where I've managed to turn, say, the TV on without touching the button, but just because I thought, oh, I'd like to have the TV on, and all of a sudden, it's almost like it's done, but I haven't tried to do it. I've just had the thought. If you see what I mean, it's like the less that you think about it, almost with it, the better it is.
Yeah, this is your soul. Your mind connects to the energy orb. Without this, you are just an orb of energy. So if you can see yourself more like that than this, you're going to be able to do more with your life.
How do you feel about ghosts? Like, do you feel like there are actually people here? They're soul fractals, or?
Okay, this is actually in my book, so I'm giving you guys a little snippet. Let me see, how can I do this? Okay, say you take a cookie and you smash it into pieces, okay? If the God particle can be everywhere, so can you. So if someone comes across a spirit, they're actually coming across a footprint frequency of that person. It's not actually them. It's a particle of their consciousness that's imprinted onto Earth. Because remember, we're almost shifting into timeline traveling. So if you're coming across a spirit, and if you'll start to notice this seem to heighten, within like the last, I'd say 15, 20 years, it started heightening more because we're getting more into those timelines where we're starting to time travel now. And what you're experiencing is someone else's time. Their stamped time print. So you're just coming across and walking basically into their reality by accident. You see? But then you have the malevolent, the dark ones that are here. Those pretend to be a full-on consciousness spirit. Now, I talk to spirits on the other side. That's mainly what I do. These are not what I consider ghosts, because they have a consciousness and they're loving, but you also have a consciousness that's dark, and this is where you get demons and things like this. They can manipulate and confuse people into thinking that something's in their house. And this is, I get called in to remove them. They don't like me coming. They've actually given me a heart attack one time where I was sent to the hospital. And then when I got to the hospital, they were like, yeah, you're not having a heart attack now. It's like gone. Because they didn't want me going there. But I kind of sensed something was up, because it was like 2 minutes before we were heading out the door to go to this place. So they are very malicious and malevolent. But you also have a consciousness fractal imprint that is communicating in a consciousness. And this is where you get the loved ones trying to reach out, especially if they feel that loved one is having a hard time with their passing away. They'll do what they can to let them know that everything's fine and they're okay. But humans here aren't at the frequency of hearing and understanding that. So there's the marked ones who help them with understanding that. Express to your audience is, when communicating with loved ones, you cannot have your ego involved, because that's when the dark ones come in and wreak havoc and cause problems. And they're not going to be paying for that. Your customers or your clients or whoever are not going to be paying that. You're going to be understanding that when you cross over and having to work out and neutralize that situation in other lives. And trust me, it is not worth it. Not for fame, not for anything on this world. It is not worth it.
There's kind of like fuel for them.
And they are using a lot of light workers, if you want to put it that way, where the light worker is actually thinking that they're doing good, but you can almost sense it when you're around them that something just doesn't seem right. Something's off. And that's when you kind of know that you probably shouldn't work with that person until they can correct what's happening. And they have that chance to correct it. That's where the free will comes in. And all we can do is just, send them love and energy to hopefully get them out of it.
I think, because I saw one of the TikToks you did about karma and fate, and I found it very interesting. And how, if say we experience something or inflict something upon someone, so therefore we have to experience it to know how they feel, and then obviously whoever inflicts that upon us, so we know how it feels, also they will have to experience that. So it's almost like a perpetual cycle. Because is there any way, how do you see it, is there a way to break that cycle so that
absolutely absolutely.
In that case, how is that done?
It's kind of like a checklist. In human terms, it's like, okay, I did that. And once the checklist is done, then you can pick something else to learn, like merging with a star or merging with a tree. Your consciousness can go anywhere. It's just, where are you on that learning that you can go to those advanced levels of learning? Fate is things that are set in stone on your soul contract, things that you can't really get out of. Karma isn't actually supposed to be looked at as negative, because let's say you have a mother and a son. And the son has disabilities, can't talk. So in your human words, it would be retardation. The mother's not very nice. She can't at her vibration handle what's happening. So she's not very nice to him. So let's say mom passes, son passes, and they go through the life review. And the life review, you can actually experience it here, because you'll get old memories when someone passes. That's when you know you're in the life review in heaven with them, because you'll get and you'll be like, man, I haven't thought of that in a long time. And it could be not even after they die. It could be 10 years later, and you're getting an old thought or memory of them. And that just means that they went back to a certain part of that life to kind of review it. This actually happens when you dream of past lives. You're actually going back to the database and reviewing a past life. And someone here on Earth, like, did you ever have a dream of like an old boyfriend or old girlfriend? Like with you guys, it would be like an old girlfriend that came in your dream. And I get people coming to me all the time, like, why would I dream of, why would they? Because you went back into the database and you were trying to figure something out between that situation with you and that person. So this is what's called past life regression dreaming. Cool. When it comes to karma, You go through the life review and you swap experiences to see what the other person felt. We all have that low frequency learning. You have to start at the post office room, the mail room, and work your way up to CEO. You have to start somewhere.
So would you say that the phrase that everything happens for a reason, would you say that that's because things needed to happen, even if they may seem like and are the most abhorrent, disgusting things that could ever happen? It happens for a reason because someone needed to feel how that feels.
Actually, I'm going to go back to the lot. I don't know if some of you have watched the show Lost. Do you remember how they started out? But had they erased all of that, they wouldn't have been who they became.
I haven't actually seen it, but you spoke about it in a couple of the TikToks I've seen on.
Everything happens to bring you to a certain level of learning. That's why I get people all the time, why would I ask myself to get cancer? Or why would I, prime example, I did a radio show and the host, his house burnt down. He's like, why would I have my house burnt down? I said, let me ask you something. Did a lot of people that you hadn't talked to or just kind of walked away from you suddenly start coming back in the picture and start helping you? And he was like, yeah. I go, that's why your house burnt down, to bring those people back into your life so that you can continue learning from them. And they showed you a kindness, which you weren't expecting. You've got your physical history, but you also have your energetic history that kind of repeats too, because if the souls didn't learn from those times, they're going to come back to Earth in a different form and try to learn from it somehow. They'll manipulate situations to make that learning take place. You can't run from lessons. You have to learn from them, or you're not going to advance your frequency to where it needs to be. Yeah. I mean, I've had many lives, horrible lives. I was Queen Anne Boleyn. I always get my head chopped off, and I never get to keep my son. My son is a sacrifice of things that I did in my past. I was Clyde, and I was a hit woman in one of my lives, and those sacrifices are my son. I never keep him. I lost him in this life as well. Again, I lost him when I was Queen Anne Boleyn. I lost him when I was Abraham Lincoln, but I came back with Abraham Lincoln life. I did whatever I could to bring freedom, because I didn't feel free in those lives. I was imprisoned when I was Queen Anne Boleyn. I was imprisoned when I was Mary, Queen of Scots. I always find myself being imprisoned and not being able to use my voice. And in this life, I promised myself that I was not going to be held back by using my voice and helping others. So this is why I do certain interviews like this. I don't accept all interviews, but ones that I know that are going to resonate, which is why I agreed to do this one.
Well, thank you. It's very kind.
This is one thing I really want to ask. So I've noticed with me and a couple of my friends, it's very seldom ones, but we tend to have a lot of people come after us.
Yes. Yeah, dark does
they target us.
Yeah. Dark does not want us accomplishing what we came here to do.
For me, I'm built much like a warrior. So it's like, I feel the world needs saviors. Kind of like Jesus.
Which is where me and you collide a little bit.
Okay.
It's in my book, but I'm going to tell you a little secret. One of my past lives was Mary Magdalene. And I can tell you everything you need to know about Jesus. But one thing a lot of people don't realize is who Jesus is in heaven. Think of the angel that protects, who's a warrior, who you would call in when you're doing a house cleansing, who's the number one right hand. Yes. Jesus is Michael. He is the head leader of that army, which you and I come together. I'm not only a teacher there. I'm part of the angelic hybrid team on the Michael bloodline. You will have hybrids on Earth right now that are part of maybe Gabriel's team, Tiara's team. Angels don't tend to give messages. They tend to intervene and protect. Your messages mainly come from your guides. And your loved ones simply support. They don't have access to your spirit, your soul contract. That's all your guides. And the only reason I know this is because I was part of the, filling or helping fill out those gaps in a soul's contract. And then I was able to take on the role of when they came back and helping them go through the life review and all the different paths and timelines they could have taken. And what I find with most souls that come to Earth is, holy crap, I could have did that. And I'm like, yeah, you had that choice, but you didn't take it. And they're like, okay, yeah, I want to go back and try to do that. Because I get that question a lot. Why would I come back here? Why would I waste my time? Because you don't see the opportunities and the amazing paths that you can take when you're in the physical body. It's really hard.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And actually, just before you started, you said about Mary Magdalene. Michelle had previously said, "Can you talk about your life with Jesus?"
That is the main life that I'm using right now. When you come into a life, you tend to tap into up to 3 that tend to help guide you. So Tom, there's at least 3 that you're tapping into that you keep going back to, whether it's the Anakis, whether it's the Syrians. You're tapping into 3 past lives that are help guiding your decisions right now. And Mary Magdalene is one of mine, and the Queen Mary is one of mine. The last memories I have of him, and if I get emotional, I tend to get emotional with this, but the Last Supper was not the Last Supper. I remember us being in, the walls look like mudded, rough mud that was placed on the inside, which you would just call like maybe a house or cabin type house. And I remember the door being open. I was sitting against the wall, and there was like a cabinet, like a wood cabinet here, and there was a chair on the left side of it, and Jesus was sitting in there. And I remember sitting back in this other section, and it was raining outside, and I was watching the water gather in this little put out in the mud, in the rocks, people walking by and stuff. And we were all trying to wrap our heads around that this was happening the next day. And so I'm in this room, and then behind, or to the side, the right side of me is like a little opening that would take you into like the dining or living area where people were sitting. We didn't sit at tables. We sat on floors, like on, little cottony looking, gluey looking things. And
beanbags.
yeah, like sort of like that. And we would sit like that. That's how we sat. We didn't sit at actual physical tables. Most of the apostles were in there with their wives and discussing everything. And I was just staring at that water. And then I kind of just looked up at him, and he was already looking at me. He was always staring. It was like he was staring at me. I'm like, okay. So I went over, and I knew that the second I was going to go over there, I was just going to lose it. I did. I kind of lost it. And he was trying to talk me down, trying to make me understand that what your version of sin is actually karma. What was happening, and you start to see this on TikTok and things where people are talking about the white light and coming back into heaven, and it's just, don't go towards the white light because it's the womb and you coming into the world.
Yeah.
This was true at one point. They're just kind of remembering it and coming back to that because the elite knows that this was a thing, and it was very scary for souls. So now they're manipulating and trying to use this as a fear tactic to get them to not cross over when they pass. Like they're going to
kind of like the reincarnation trap thing.
Yeah, they're going to see the portal open and angels starting to come in. They're going to be like, no, I was told not to go to that light. Like, do you see? Causing another sin filtration. They figured out a loophole on how to get souls not to go to the portal that takes you to your life review or to heaven. They were rerouting souls to keep coming in and out. And Jesus was told his mission was to come, do some teaching, cross over, and get the portal back. That's karma. Sin is karma. He was to kind of bring all that energy back to heaven so that those souls can work all of that karma out, which was centuries of karma that was built up. That's why you didn't really see a whole lot of humans during that time, because they had to work out a lot of stuff. So there's like a big kind of gap of the population not being real high during that time. And if you go back into your history of Earth, you can figure that out. So that was his mission. And we had been with him for so long. I had 5 children with him. So I'm just kind of like wrapping my head around, like, they're after him. He dies. They're going to come after us. I don't know where I'm going to go. So I had to come up with a game plan on what I was going to do. We had 3 boys and 2 girls. and the youngest I was pregnant with. So I had to figure something out. So that's what we were all kind of trying to do, was how to get us all protected as soon as all this took place. And I do remember keeping my composure when it was taking place. I remember the sky being this pink, orangey hue color,
Mm.
and the things they were doing to him. And I held Mary and was trying to get her to just stay calm. And I was actually trying to get her to walk away, but she just wouldn't. She just said, he's been here for me my entire life. I need to be here when he needs me the most. And she just refused to leave. She just wouldn't walk away. But I had broken down the day before, I think, because I needed the energy to be there for her when she broke down.
Right.
And it hit me in that moment that's why that happened that way. So I tend to release it when I talk about it, because I wasn't able to.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Good that you do it.
But one thing with Jesus, so I've had a lot of people come in and try to kind of subconsciously rewire my mind in a dark way. Like I had one crazy girl who claims she's in the Bible. Maybe she is in the Bible somewhere, they're saying. But she was trying to tell me that the reincarnation, this is crazy, of Jesus was Hanson, the lead singer of Hanson. Anyways, but I find this hilarious. But the point is that I'm getting at here with this is that it's like Edgar Cayce said, the Christ soul has directly or indirectly influenced every religion that has taught oneness with God. Starting with the law of one in Atlantis and ending with the cross, the next incarnation of the Christ soul would be to bring in the kingdom of David. What would be your interpretation of
Which is energy. Jesus isn't coming back physically. They all think he is. It's not. It's a consciousness, collective energy that snaps us out of what they've been doing. I did a whole video on the two gods of the Bible, because there's two gods there. There's not just one. Moses followed the wrong one because he's a loving God. You cannot sacrifice animals and sacrifice children and sacrifice virgins or whatever you want to call it and be an unconditional loving God. You cannot have a vengeful hating God and an unconditional loving God. A house divided cannot stand.
It does seem
so does this go into, like, I don't know if you've read these Gnostic texts. I've read quite a few, but like the Apocalypse of John, like the Demiurge, where there's this other God. I mean, I don't know if it's that exact God, but it doesn't resonate with me. But I'm bringing it up
in the cosmos. Okay, there was a being, God, and a particle came off that consciousness, and that consciousness thought it was alone, thought it was the only God, thought it was the only thing in the cosmos. So then it created Earth, and it took Adam and put a veil over him so he couldn't remember where he came from, and forced him out of the real God's imaginative illusion of the concept of the Garden of Eden. Okay. And why this happened was God was starting to get into branching off who he was. It's kind of like making a painting and making a certain flower that you resonate with on the painting. That was Adam. Okay. Oh, I don't like being alone. So then Adam might not like being alone. I should probably make something for him to, not be alone and conversate with, because he and I conversate, but maybe he's alone when I go off. So then there was another thing there, another consciousness branched off. The negative God saw these things, thought he was the only God, and thought he can control those things. So then he put them in a different reality, put a veil over them so they couldn't remember. And their children couldn't remember. And then murder was. So, like, I'm gonna go back to the Bible on this. You've got Adam and Eve, and you've got two sons. Who did the sons have children with? Because that reality, that negative God, had already created an illusion and put a bunch of things in it that he could manipulate and control because he thought he was all powerful. And I remember getting mentally threatened by him when I was told to release this information and I was getting ready to talk about it. He had threatened me, told me he was going to make sure that her daughter would be killed, that I would be killed off, from a car accident, a disease, something.
Mm.
And he did make an attempt. I was shown that I would be in a car accident and that I would cross over. And I actually went live on Facebook and warned my people. I said within 6 months' time, I will leave the way I came in. But within that car accident, I had a meeting within the matter of those minutes that I was in the car when I got hit. The meeting was that I would come back and try to continue the mission, even though I had collectively finished it. I felt like I had finished it in time, that I didn't need to do anymore.
Yeah.
And they said that the reason you're in this car accident is because he is placing you in this car accident so you don't release anymore. And we're going to continue showing you what those things will be. When I came out with the two gods of the Bible, I felt such a release, like I was being severely protected after this, and I've been protected. I haven't gotten any car accidents. Nothing's been happening to me. I mean, I might get the occasional person here or there that attacks me for what I say, or things I talk about, but
Yeah, sure.
that's dark using them as a puppet because their frequency is low enough to use them. So, Tom, don't ever get upset if somebody's coming at you, because it's just dark using their low frequency to talk to you. Don't that their soul is not talking to you. It is completely.
I just go to battle if I have to.
Just put your sword up and just energetically be like, no, you need to go and bring the soul's back to who it belongs, because that soul, it's kind of like a person being drunk. The actual soul cannot be in that body when they're drunk. It leaves a void. The soul will not stay in there. It's the same thing with drugs. That's where you get people going, well, I don't remember doing that. Well, they don't. They stepped out. So what steps in is much more darker. It's the same thing with people with low frequency. They step in, use them, and then step out. And then the person's like, I don't even remember saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what about the two? Sorry, Jim. What about the two gods? Like, are some people worshiping the wrong god?
Yeah.
So that'd be the Old Testament. We're going to get very controversial here.
That would be your Catholics. That would be the Christians. They're following the God of the Bible, the one that caused them sacrifice, or you are be put to death if you wear cotton. What? Think about it. Okay, same thing with baptism. Baptism doesn't wipe away water does not wipe away anything. You came here to learn karma, period. And what Dark wanted to do with this God was to make them think that this washed away everything, so you can do whatever you want now. Go ahead. Be as mean as you want. See? The wiping of the water makes them think that they can do whatever they want now, because everything's good. They won't collect any karma now. Do you see? But
that's always felt like a sort of a free pass just to do whatever you want. So no, that's all right. So this person died for my sins or whatever. So therefore, I can just be a complete asshole and do whatever I want. And
and you're going to work that karma out. Whether you believe in that God of the Bible or not, you're going to work out karma. That's the whole point of why you're here, is to work out your karma, but then also help others that are working out their karma. You get over your mountain, help others get over theirs. That's the whole point. And manipulate the energy here to do that. That's your tool.
They're sort of absolving responsibility for your actions by saying that you can basically do what you want because you whatever. And that doesn't teach responsibility. It doesn't teach any kind of empowerment or anything like that. It's just basically saying.
And my penance right now is, losing my son. I lose him in every life, and it kind of brings me back to all the lives that I hurt, and it takes me back to the people that were left behind that had to deal with my carnage that I left for them to deal with. And as much as it hurts me that I lose him in every life, it just brings me back to that memory of I sacrificed him, his energy in a sense. I don't get to know him in that physical sense, because I need to be reminded not to continue hurting anyone in any way.
Mm. Yeah.
I put that on myself. They didn't do that. I did that. I
Yeah.
asked
So
for
you're
that.
taking responsibility
Because
for it.
what's the worst thing you can go through in life is lose a child. The
Mm.
oldest I was able to have him was 18. I was in Ireland. He
Mm.
was killed, and I jumped off a cliff in our backyard. It was
Mm.
a cliff that went to the ocean. And I
Mm.
remember walking this ocean. It was like a purple haze.
Mm.
There was a moon, and I remember
Mm.
just walking, and after so long, this like light showed up, and through the light was a person, and I didn't realize at the time, but it was Jesus, and he had come to me and said, "Are you done now? Are you
Mm.
ready to come back?" And I was like, "Come back?" And he goes, "Are you done suffering? Are you done putting yourself through this?" And
Mm.
because we don't realize we're the ones doing it. We're
Mm.
the ones making ourselves suffer
Yeah.
because we feel like we deserve it. But
Mm.
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, do we even have any right to claim that?
Mm. Mm. Yeah. I know
You
what
know
you
what I
mean.
mean? Because
I
he
have
did
a
the work for us in the
yeah,
end
yeah.
all.
I know. I have a question because we were speaking about karma, and we spoke earlier and talked about how we experience things because we've made other people experience them, so we have to feel them ourselves. But
Okay.
then that makes me think, well, if someone is supposed to experience that because they've inflicted that on someone else, why do we have the feeling that we need to save others or someone else? If are we interrupting karma by saving them?
Not necessarily, because if you're getting a pull from your guides to save,
Mm,
they're directing you into not allowing them to give up. I'll give you an example. There was a mother, and she died in childbirth, and she was brought to me in heaven. And our lessons that we were going over, and the karma we were going over, were her giving up too quickly. And she realizes that now, that she gave up
mm,
too quickly. Like, she
mm,
could have pushed through that and kept
mm,
going. But her physical manipulated her mind into thinking, this is too hard. You're tired. Just let go.
mm,
And she shouldn't have.
mm,
That's you have two different entities going on. You have your body and you have your mind. Your mind collects data for the soul. It's like your
mm,
camera or video
mm,
camera. Your
mm,
brain is with your body. It functions the body.
mm,
And without the mind connecting to the soul, you don't really have anything running the body. But
mm,
it constantly fights because it's used to the concepts of earth. Your mind's used to the concepts of heaven. So it's like
mm,
this constant fight or flight between the two of them.
mm,
So if you're being pulled to save or help someone, do,
mm.
do it in a sense that you're not manipulating in saving them, but more
Yeah,
supporting them so
mm,
that they don't let go so
yeah.
easily.
Because I feel like a lot of most people, myself included, we don't like to see suffering. It's something we want to jump in and stop someone from suffering. But then at the same time, the whole karma thing, maybe they need to suffer. Um,
And that's
but
where I'm going to get you on that.
yeah,
So if someone was meant to suffer and somebody wasn't to like feel pulled to save them, they
mm,
wouldn't. You,
nah, yeah.
let,
So
so you wouldn't be there.
yeah, yeah,
You would
yeah. I know
try to.
what you mean.
Do you know what I'm
Maybe they've
saying?
suffered
You're
enough.
doing
Sort of
that
thing.
because
Yeah,
you're meant to show up,
yeah. So maybe they've suffered enough.
and then they
And
get saved.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have been thinking about that, and you think, well, it's not necessarily that black and white, shall we say? It's because I feel like we all do things when we need to do them, and when we're drawn to do them. And if someone's suffering, or we see suffering in the world, of which there is an abundant amount, it would seem, we don't necessarily see it all. We're drawn to certain. Things and to do certain things that would reduce suffering for people.
Yeah.
And if we're not drawn to it, then it's obviously we're not meant to.
One of the biggest videos on my YouTube right now that just kind of took off, I did a video on suicide and what that looks like. Why souls have that. It is an out. There is an out. If a soul just is really not doing what they thought they came to do, there is a clause in the soul
Mm.
contract, because if it's not in your soul contract, it's not going to be in your mind.
No.
Your mind is the compass to your soul
Mm.
contract. If something doesn't belong there, it's not going to show itself. It's not, a doctor's not going to start thinking about being an attorney unless it's there. So he continues to be the doctor. Do you see?
Yeah.
So if they're thinking of suicide and they don't have anybody around them to stop them, that clause is planned out. Now, if they have somebody that steps in and saves them, then they still have more work to do, and they can, and the guides are showing them, okay, we don't want you to use the clause right now, so we're sending you somebody to help you through that. Now, if they accomplish it, they're going to go back, they're going to get their frequency fixed out, they're going to understand certain things through the soul contract, and then they're going to come back and do it again. That's what I tell people. Be very careful with your thoughts with suicide. Make sure that you don't have learning that you can overcome, because suicide is just a clause. It doesn't mean you need to take it. It's just a sampling on a menu that you don't have to take. You can overcome it. You just have to have that mindset and work yourself through that. But there's some that just, they're so stuck in negative. I just did a reading for somebody and they were so stuck in negative. I couldn't even talk to her. There was no talking to her. And they just can't get out of that mindset. It's like they're stuck on repeat. And there's no talking to them until they get that frequency fixed out for themselves, where they can, and I get this a lot of times with sessions where I'll have a mother saying, you know, I feel like I could have did something, or I could have said something. Then you would have. Yeah. It would have been planned out.
Yeah, we often beat ourselves up for not saying something or not doing something, but you think, well, once you get to that understanding where if you needed to do something or say something, then you would have, and then you become okay and more accepting of your actions and not sort of feeling guilty about certain things that you've done in the past, because otherwise you'd have done something different. And sort of, you know, it's having that sort of, I don't know, that broader perspective and looking at things, and not necessarily having those thoughts that you could have done better. We all could do better, but we all do what is necessary.
Yeah,
I think that's
for your learning. That's why I say don't argue with people. There's no need to argue with people, because their frequency is not going to allow them to see what you're trying to say. They have to resonate and actually see what you're talking about for it to resonate. I had a lady that's been following me for 10 years. She just inboxed, I think it was like a year ago, and said, after this whole time, it finally hit me what you've been talking about. She wasn't getting it that whole time.
It's like we all think things are so obvious because they're obvious to us. And I heard a saying recently that says nothing is self-evident to the skeptic.
Right.
And I thought, yeah, that is one of the truest sayings that I've ever heard, because if someone doubts something that someone else thinks is obvious, then that's not going to be self-evident to that person who's the doubter. And I thought, I just remember that for when if you feel like something is, if anyone feels like something should be common sense or whatever, if someone's doubting or not necessarily seeing things from that perspective, it's not going to be evident for them. So we shouldn't necessarily think bad of them for that not being so.
And I see this a lot on comments where people are just getting bashed, and they just don't realize that's dark, using that person to start arguments. Why do you keep going back and forth? It's not going to go anywhere. You need to see your self-worth. Sometimes you get people around you that question your self-doubt and question yourself, and their frequency doesn't belong in your frequency coding. For some reason, you keep pulling frequencies in that don't belong in your coding. And I don't know if this is you just like self-sacrificing yourself because you feel like you deserve it, but you don't. You have so much worth and you don't see it. I see it. I hope that eventually in the next couple of years you start to see it, because it's there.
Yeah, I think my fear is, like, I've seen the world destroyed so many times, and whatever my team was could have done it better.
But if that was the case, wouldn't it have been done?
Maybe. There's always a way to fix something, isn't there?
Yeah.
No.
Well, not fixed.
But
Maria just jumped in and said not fixed. There's no right or wrong. There's no mistakes or failures. It's just learning.
There's always a workaround. There's always a work.
Oh, yeah, soul work takes work. Or we wouldn't be here. Yeah.
So I want to go back to this one thing, though, with the Bible and Jesus. So he was preaching of God, and then the church came in and manipulated it, like those central teachings, if I'm understanding this correct.
Yeah. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were just like your beginner kindergarten stage of your evolution. And all the like level 2, level 3, level 4, and on, there was like 15 levels. They were removed from the religion and altered and changed. Like the wedding was our wedding. The household owner of the house serves the wine at the end. That's their way of thanking their guests in an honorable way for coming and gathering and being there with them. So it's like, I'm pouring this for you. It's a service, and I'm giving it to you, which is out of my supply that keeps me healthy or living. So I'm handing you something of mine, and I'm giving gratitude and honor to you. Jesus did that at the end because it was our house, our wedding. Okay.
Makes sense.
So it's things like they alter it. They alter it in little minuscule ways that you won't figure out the bigger picture unless you do your research. I mean, they show the wedding, but they kind of manipulate. Like they took me out of the entire Bible and then put me dead center at the resurrection. If you're going to do that, why not alter all of the big parts and the little parts if you're going to do that work? You know what I mean? It's like almost like somebody overlooked it on purpose so that eventually it would come out that, you know, I was altered throughout the entire Bible. Because my job was to raise the frequency of the divine feminine. And while he was teaching men, I was teaching the children and women. And we worked as a pair. We were a consciousness fractal of the same particle. And where I was doing my job, he was doing his. But according to the church, this is not allowed. I don't have a voice. Even though God created me, I don't have a voice. It's the same thing with Black people. God created them. They're just a color of a crayon. You know, they're like any other race. But they had no worth. They had no value. They didn't even have Barbies. They didn't have dolls. Growing up, do you remember ever seeing a Black doll or a Black Barbie? They were excluded. So anytime that child would look at a doll, they didn't even see their own reflection coming back at them. They saw a white person, which told them they were bad. They weren't good enough. This is how the elite's been manipulating and trolling this whole time. The apostles are here to wake them up. We are bringing back the books by our healings and teachings.
All of the lost books.
We are the books. We're just not in the physical paper form. This is the book. This is the book.
The information.
I believe the Book of Thomas could literally be the original gospel or Q source, as they say. But that's all debatable, but it makes sense to me. It's the most metaphysical book I've read of all the Gnostic texts. Anyways, but Jimmy, you hit it, man.
Well, I've just got one more question before we wrap up, if that's all right. Obviously, it's about emotions. And obviously, we experience a wide range of emotions in this plane, on this realm. When we go to different realms, up to dimensions, to fourth dimension, fifth dimension, or what have you, do they have the same? How do they have emotion? Do they just control it better? How does it work? Do they have more or less?
So, let's say you're going through an emotion. Maybe it's depression. The last thing you want to do is talk to a gray. There's no emotion there. They are very computerized AI. There's no emotion there. But if, let's say, you went to an Arcturian or a Pleiadian, they feel your emotion, and they're like mini councils. So yes, different races have emotion. My planet doesn't really have emotion. I tend to have issues with that when I'm here. Let's say I'm at a funeral, everybody's crying. I'm sitting there going, why is everybody crying? I'm just like, they're standing right there. They're in heaven. Like it's amazing. Like what their experience is like a huge party. They're like in the middle of a party with all their friends. And Everybody's like I can't. I'm having a hard time still because I'm still in my galactic hybrid sense because I'm a angel hybrid. So what happens is, in your time, let's say it was like 30 years ago, the bloodline of an angel was split with an alien race. So when you first are created, you will be sent to a planet. This is where you get somebody looking at the sky and their first focus goes to one point in the sky. They don't roam around. They go right to the point. It could be the Big Dipper. It could be the moon. It could be the North Star. Anytime they go out, they go right to that point in the sky. That's because their original coding, their home, goes right to that point.
Sort of like homing beacon.
Never be erased, ever. So that alien particle and the angel particle are put together, and you've got a hybrid, which then can galactically travel because angels can't leave heaven. But if they were split, and there was a loophole there to get an alien species DNA bloodline, then they can go anywhere they want.
Sort of like a workaround.
So yeah, my planet, we don't. We're very just. There's no policing. We don't have a government. Even though I am, it's in my book. I stepped down so that I would leave. I got one of the warnings that Earth needed help, and I was just about to go into a leadership role, and I stepped away and continued to let my mom, Earth Mom, your equivalent of a mother, I let her continue that reign, even though she was in retirement, and I was to take over that leadership. My body is in a stasis, so when I cross, I'll just go right back to that body.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's waiting for me. I've been here kind of a little too long, but it's okay. We'll work it out. But do you ever watch the show? It's a movie. With Scarlett Johansson, she takes the blue drugs and they put it in her stomach.
Yeah, wait, Lucy.
I can't remember that. Okay, so when she gets to the point where she's like pushing people and her friend like starts talking about her boyfriend and she's just like, yeah, I'm not hearing it. That's usually me, and I have to be like, okay, humans are emotional. I got to snap out of this. Like, I have to show some kind of emotion because sometimes you'll notice I'll have emotion, and other times it's just my Kalenian side just kicks in. I can't help it. It's and I have to keep reminding myself that I have to have emotion because humans are used to that, and if I'm cold to them, it's going to come off a different way when I didn't even mean it that way.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. So, I'm a bit like that too. So, but no, it's fascinating. I just wanted to ask that. I've got a few other questions, but we'll have to wait till maybe another time or whatever. So, but yeah, no. Have you got any more questions, Thomas?
I'm good.
I think Tom's an odd.
I gotta run it through AI software. So
there you go.
I only got so many credits.
But I just want to thank you, Moon. It's been a pleasure and it's been fascinating.
Thank you.
Would you like to just finish up? Just tell everyone where we can find you and all of that.
Moonair.com is the readings website. I also have a shop, a metaphysical shop in Johnstown, PA. That's the crystalcovegems.com website. And then we have the healing spa, which is sacredspirithealings.com. I have like 3 businesses in one, so I'm pretty busy. We try to use every avenue we can to help people, the crystals, the sages, and then the healings, and then readings. That's the thing with my gift. I not only talk to the ones that crossed over, I talk to the living. So I work with law enforcement, FBI, with missing persons. I'm what's considered a spiritual tracker. I can track their last steps and then talk to their soul. My big thing is I work with coma patients and cancer patients and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, they just have a red funnel. And that's where they slip into different realities, which are past lives. And they can't figure out where they're at because they're slipping in and out. And when I come in and close it because they can't be doing that. There's something funky going on that kind of started happening. So anybody that comes to me, I just close that portal so they're not scooping out and coming back in.
Could you pull them back in?
Their higher frequency that is supposed to be here, yeah.
Could you wake them up?
We just closed those timelines down so they're not looping out of timelines. And what we think happened was when the elites started really messing with timelines, that's when Alzheimer's started becoming a thing, because it started doing things to people that were actually going to different past lives and working through that stuff. And somehow they got caught in a loop where they're leaving and coming back, leaving and coming back. And we think that it was when they started messing with the, like, splitting the timelines.
Because I've seen lots of things that says Alzheimer's is caused by a physical, like aluminium in the brain or something like that. But is that
an energetic symptom that the physical's taking on?
Yeah, it's this kind of like more of a distraction because of what's actually really going on. That's kind of like just yeah. Okay, cool. Right, yeah. Thank you so much, Moo. Again, and thank you, Thomas. Thank you, brother, and thank you everyone for watching. And we'll see you next week.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Peace.